All right, welcome to Believe in Chargers. It's another week of Believe in Chargers, and it's another press conference that we are going to react to on Believe in Chargers. This one, not as much sizzle as the Jim Harbaugh presser, but then again, we have not had that much sizzle in a press conference for any sport in about 10 years. So, going to be hard to live up to that one, but I'll say, Lo, you had great insight last week. You know Joe Hortiz well, and I think there's great reason for Charger fans to be excited. A handful of things, I'll just kind of tick off a few for you to sort of to piggyback on and give us your insight and a little bit deeper analysis on. But there's going to be a shift in the way the Chargers do business. For all the years that Tom Telesco was the general manager, you saw very little movement up and down the draft board. You saw very few compensatory picks. You did not see a lot of in-season acquisitions or workouts unless they were injury related. Pretty much whatever the Chargers were handed is what they took. And I thought, Joe Ortiz really made a point to emphasize. He said it repeatedly. He must have said compensatory picks 3 or 4 times through the course of his presser. And when you look, nobody has had more compensatory picks than the Baltimore Ravens in the last 20 years. So it is something, and for people that don't know what that means, when you lose free agents, you are awarded picks for losing the free agents. There's a net equation. Did you gain or did you lose in the free agent market? Did people sign away your valuable players, and did you sign less value in the free agent market? If that happens, you're awarded compensatory picks starting with the back end of the third round. So that's something that, and what Joe had, what he was speaking to was, we need more picks. You need more bites at the apple because that gives you a better opportunity for success. You're not going to hit on every draft pick, so why not pile up as many as you can? And then, I'll hand it to you with this, Lo. My takeaway, he didn't say it flat out because you don't want to advertise it like we're desperate to get out, but he doesn't want to be picking at 5. He wants more picks. He knows he needs more picks, and he needs to develop this roster in his and Jim Harbaugh's image. I'd be very, very surprised if they stayed at number 5, as long as there was, a solid offer that was presented to them by a team that wanted to move up.
No question. Joe Ortiz is going to be listening. Like you said, his phone's going to be ringing. He's going to be taking calls. And I think you got to give the 49ers a lot of credit. That's what John Lynch, they always take calls. You don't just table them, you take them. You see the things they're able to get rid of a quarterback that was, Trey Lance. John Lynch is that way. When you look at Joe Ortiz, that's what he's going to do. You're going to have a guy that's going in here and say, look, we have to build. We have to build a foundation. We got to bring in a lot of players. And that's why Harbaugh said, look, I'm going to go out and get my coaches because, look, I'm going to be the chef. You have to go out and provide the food and the groceries for me to be able to cook. And that's what Joe Ortiz is going to do. He's going to give Harbaugh guys that he can train from a basic college level, that he's going to say, look, here's the athlete. These guys have the talent. They have the athletic ability, all those things. Now they're raw. How are you going to coach to mold these guys in? And that's what Harbaugh does well. You watch Michigan. It wasn't necessarily the biggest, strongest team to win the national title. But what he did, he had guys that were disciplined, guys that were in the right place, guys that were physical. He had tough guys. Harbaugh builds that culture. And I think that Joe Ortiz, without a doubt, when you watch what he's done in Baltimore, you always talked about it. For the last 10 years, Baltimore has been known for its physicality, tough guys, team that can get after you, and that's what they're going to build. And especially when you have a coach like Harbaugh, who's going to use those guys and put them in the right position to be successful.
Yeah, I think you look at the Super Bowl, and let's just look at the Chiefs roster specifically. Let's just look at the Chiefs defensive roster, and when you look just front to back, Chris Jones, 2nd-round pick, Mike Dana, 3rd-round pick, Nick Bolton, 3rd-round pick, Trent McDuffie, 1st-round pick. L'Jarius Sneed, 4th-round pick. Willie Gay, I think, was a 2nd or a 3rd-round pick. These are not all first-rounders. Yeah. Seconds, no. 3rds, 4ths. And when you have the number 5 pick, you're talking about trading back, picking up, a 1 and an extra 2. And then maybe you trade that 1 again and you pick up another 2 or another 3. That's where the nucleus of your team is formed in that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round. You have got to turn those into starters. And I think considering how much this roster is going to turn over, the amount of free agents that likely are not going to be back with this team, that I think is what Joe was speaking to, is compensatory picks. And that doesn't necessarily mean just being awarded the extra picks, but creating your own picks. Nobody I mean, nobody. I know Bill Belichick did it a lot, but he has not drafted well. Nobody has executed draft strategy better going with Ozzie Newsome, who set the tone to Eric DeCosta and that staff that Ozzie brought up, than the Ravens. They will move up and down the draft board so deftly that you're constantly saying, how did Patrick Queen fall to the Ravens? How did Kyle Hamilton end up there? What are they do? They always get their guy, and it's because they operate and they execute better than everybody else. And I think that's that philosophy and look, you can talk about creating culture as a head coach, right? I need to change the culture. We need Jim Harbaugh's here. We need a culture of toughness is what we need here with the Chargers. That goes for the front office. Guys, we have not been bringing in enough guys. Every single week, we should have guys in for workouts to figure out if they're better than the guys on our roster. Every single draft, we need to be exploring if we should be trading down. And as we trade down and acquire more picks, now can we take some of those picks and trade back up to get our guy? Like, I think that's what Joe is dealing with, is changing the culture of the way this front office operates, because he's going to inherit and he's going to be working with a lot of people that have been here. It's not like a coaching staff, right, Lo? Like, you don't bring in all your own assistant coaches. You
Right.
tend to inherit a staff, a scouting
Right.
staff, and that's what he's done. So I think he's speaking to, hey guys, it's going to be different. So let's get to my way of thinking, because the way it was is not the way it's going to be.
No question. And to add to that, you got to realize, that you got to have someone that has iron. We all say iron sharpens iron. You have to have a guy like Joe, because John Spanos and Alex Spanos, they have to take care of this team. So you got other things that you have to deal with. They're businessmen,
Yeah.
so they rely on their GM to make sure that they're making those right decisions. But they want to go in and communicate. Hey, we're doing this. Okay, why we're doing it? Okay, let me write the check. But see, now you have a guy in Joe that can be like, hey, Harbaugh, I understand what you want this guy, but we're going to go here because I'm thinking long term. We're going to build this way because of the fact I want to have a team that has sustainability, but also this guy he can play special teams. Some of these guys, they want to be good. They want to play special teams, but they can't. And that's what your Joe's going to do. Like you talked about, getting the depth. These guys that you look at, these tweeners, you said, oh my goodness, this guy can play first and second down, but also he can play on punt team. He also can play here. We can plug him in here. So now you don't have the cream of the crop that can't play special teams, that haven't played special teams in years, that don't know how. Now you can start building these guys, and yeah, they're starters, but they're not starters because they're in a split role, because other guys do other things. So now you're able to satisfy and suffice your whole team in the structure and the makeup, and that's what's going to be big for Joe. Joe is going to do a great job of getting guys that he can plug in and give them the hardball and let him train these guys, for they can have a culture, not just a culture, but have a plethora amount of guys that can play in different integral parts and on offense and defense to make this team sustainable.
Yeah, I thought he articulated it perfectly, because he was asked, without feeling like you're giving away the state secrets, how does Baltimore do it? Why are they so successful? And he was just very matter of fact and nonchalant, to take a word from my man Mike Singletary when he was coaching the 49ers. You want to be all kick him off the field, acting all nonchalant. Um, but what he said was, it's discussion. It's very simple. It's discussion. We've got this great staff of scouts. We've got a pro personnel director, a director of college scouting. We've got an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, a head coach, and you converse and you connect and you find out what you need, and you start, because far too often, and I'm not going to name names, but I know, someone that I knew very well, who ended up becoming a GM, and I had heard the story how the head coach would just kind of run the first round. No, that's the guy I want. It's like, well, you've never seen him. You never saw him play. Your scout is telling you that, hey, listen, I did digging. I'm the one that did the digging with with all the sort of references, and I don't know, and no, this guy we want. And when you have that, now you cut the scouts' legs out from under them. They're the ones that are away. And this was all stuff that Joe detailed. He's like, I've done it all. I've been a personal assistant. I've been an area scout. I've been a regional scout. He has done every single job in the front office, and he knows how imperative it is to get every last bit of information. It's a cliche, Lo, but man, and I am way too small and full of way too much cowardice to have ever put on the uniform and get out there and realize what it's like. But there's a reason it's a cliche. Does this guy love football? You got to love football to play this game because your body is going to betray you, and you are going to continually ask yourself, why am I putting myself through this? And if you don't
Right.
love this game, and you don't have that competitive spirit, and you don't have that positive energy that adds to the bowl of energy that leads to winning, those are the things you need to find out. Not what do the stats say, and I watched the 20 clips of this guy's pass rushes, and man, he gets good leverage and he's got great bend. Let's go get him. No, that's the stuff that Joe was speaking to.
Wow, Matt, when you were talking, man, I just was writing down some notes. Without a doubt, you're talking about the QUIT. See, just because guys run the 40 and they have the bend and do all that stuff, and like you're talking about, if you don't love football, you can quit. QUIT. You can find a play where this player athletically, all those things that you have it, they'll quit. You have to love football. You and I could go out, man, and we said, let's shoot some 3-pointers. You and I go out there, we had to shoot 50. You know what? You might make, let's just say you'll make 45
Yeah,
of them. I'll probably make 10. But we'll get some in. We can go out there and hit a golf ball and say, oh, you know what? Let's go out there and hit a ball. Me and you could hit one ball better than me. I hit one ball better than you. We can go out there and play basketball, any of those sports. But if I told you, Matt, line up, now you got to run 50 power, and you got to go running against Trent Williams,
no, no,
you're not going to get that 1-3. You're not going to go make that layup like you could in basketball. You're not making that shot. You're not beating that guy not one time. That's like you said. You have to love it. And I don't care what type of heart, what type of desire. You're not winning on that power.
right,
It's just, and that is the biggest thing that people understand. Yeah, we can go out there, shoot the jumper, shoot some threes, and it's going to go in. And that's what Joe is going to do. He's going to make sure, like you said, get the guys in there that love football. When you don't, when coaches have that ability to say, this is the guy I want, what happens to your scout? Not only is it deflating for them, but now you have a scout out that now in the long run, he doesn't work as
right.
hard because he knows he's going to be overridden. He knows he's going to be overridden. So it's devalue these guys out. So now you start saying, guys, when you miss on these guys, scouts say, hey, it wasn't my fault. So now you water down your system. You water down your organization. And that's what Joe is going to do, Matt, like you're alluding to, is because he's not going to, no disrespect, he's not going to rely on the Todd McShays. He's not going to be relying on all these time and all these guys. Oh, this is what the scout's saying. And that's what people, like, I don't need that. I have a staff that's going to go out there and watch these guys, watch not just that, their character, their ability, how they played in the fourth quarter, when they're getting blown out. What did they do? Do they quit? Are they running to the ball? So they're going to do all those things that these talking head scouts that don't do. That's what I like about what Joe's going to bring to this
Yeah.
organization. The devil's in the details, and he's going to get a lot of that details
Yeah,
done.
no doubt. And, look, there's going to be some turnover. I would assume he's going to want to bring a handful of his guys in to complement what the Chargers already have. I think, he was also asked about the trade for Roquan Smith. I mean, think about it. When's the last time the Chargers made a trade in season, like they did at the trade deadline? And he made a great point. He's like, however, we got to get the players. We got to get the players. Like and like and then he brought up compensatory picks as well. He's like, just because you trade for a guy doesn't mean that maybe it doesn't work out. He's a free agent at the end of the year. You let him walk. You get your compensatory pick. So yeah, I sent out a pick, but I'm gonna get a pick back, and that's working the board. That's making sure you're exhausting and look at the impact that Roquan Smith had on that Baltimore Ravens defense. How it just flipped and became
Huge,
huge.
huge.
So it's one of the you can't overvalue draft picks too much and be so precious with them that a talent like Roquan that you believe is going to be the straw that stirs the drink and exactly what you need, you just feel it's too prohibitive to trade away something that valuable for someone that's going to request that much money. He took the swing, and it worked out. It worked out brilliantly. So I think it's aggressive, but it's also it's also intuitive. It's collaborative. There's a lot of ifs that I'm going through. It's like he detailed the Batman and the Robin that Jim Harbaugh talked about. And he said, yeah, like in season, I'm Robin. When Jim comes to me and says, we need this, I'm going to immediately march back into my office and just start pounding phones. He's like, we need a middle linebacker. I'm going to go find it. I got to find it. I got to get a guy in the facility every single day. Does this guy work? No. All right. Next guy. Does this guy work? No. And that's the sort of thing that creates and builds championship culture. I'm telling you what we need, and I'm the head coach, and you respect that. Okay, well, Coach, I'm telling you that I know you really like this guy, but our regional scout says, teammates don't like him. There's a reason why he wasn't the captain, even though he's got the best stats. He's not a real good leader. He takes plays off. Guys, you know, that's collaborative. That's making sure that you're using every resource that you have. And I'll tell you, Lo, as we kind of shift, beyond the press, I'm trying to think if there was really anything else in there. I think a lot of it was just sort of what you would expect, his relationship with Jim, the relationship with John, Jack and Jackie and the Harbaughs and what they bring and what they mean. And obviously Justin Herbert's incredible and amazing and we got to support him. But I will, you know what? I'll say this. He did. And
How about Jim with his jersey?
Yeah. What's that?
How about them giving Jim his
Yeah.
jersey? You saw the presser. He's got his number four, breaking back the old
Exactly.
Harbaugh jersey. It was interesting because I saw your boy here at the Super Bowl, Dr. Chow, and we were talking about you. He's like, man, you and Money's killing it. He loves the show. He said he's going to come on and actually tell us some Harbaugh stories about, hey, the infamous punch that no one's, back in the day when he's a young, full of vinegar. A couple guys talk about Harbaugh is freaking tough. Yeah. He talked about what did Harbaugh wanted to do when he retired. Harbaugh wanted to be a referee.
Oh, that's hilarious.
When you think about all these different things, it's hilarious. So we got some great stories, man. We got to tell about this coach because I'm telling you, it's really going to change the culture. And you're going to see a team that what we'd like to see, Matt, physical back in the day with Marty Schottenheimer type of ball, the physical downhill, punch you in the mouth, but tough physical team. I think you're going to see that and some.
Yeah, and I think you got to be excited about the coordinators. A lot of people, and there's a reason why the Chargers would not grant permission to teams that wanted to talk to Ryan Ficken. He came in and he turned around the worst special teams unit in the league for 3 years running into one of, if not the best. Found Cameron Dicker, he brought J.K. Scott over because he was in Minnesota and he said, hey, look, this guy's out of work. He was in Green Bay. I'm telling you, he's the guy. J.K. Scott completely turned around, the punt team. And then on top of that, they end up becoming punt coverage. You got guys like Eamon Ogbongbemiga, who become some of the best, Nick Neiman, just some of the best special teams players in the league under his guidance. So I'm beyond stoked that they're keeping him as their special teams coordinator. And then offense, defense, getting Jesse Minter is absolutely huge. And, we've already talked about Ben Herbert, strength and conditioning, considered the best in the nation, one of only 2 guys that was making $1 million in college. And now Greg Roman is going to be that OC. And that's something that Joe said during his presser. What's our best way to make sure we maximize Justin Herbert? Run the ball. And what that tells me, Lo, is I don't think we're going to see someone that's lined up out wide in the draft. I think you're going to see a lineman drafted. You're going to see multiple linemen drafted. I think they're talking about we got to make sure we get physical at that point of attack on offense, protect our guy, run the football. Greg Roman's coming in. He made Lamar Jackson help.
Oh,
go ahead, Lo. What that means.
No, Greg Roman, we know. You've seen what he did with the Niners. You see what he did with Lamar. Greg Roman is a run game connoisseur. He's a master. It's physicality. You see the way with Cap and all the different things he's done with offenses. You are going to have a team that is going to, impose its will. I'm asking you real quick. I was derailing you because I wanted to say, who's some of the backs that you still see on this roster? Do you see some backs that are Harbaugh guys that are still on this roster now? Or you think it's just going to be all new backs?
Well, they're all free agents except for Isaiah Spiller, who's got, another couple years left on his rookie deal in the 4th round. So he's inexpensive if you want to keep him around. And he's big. People don't realize how big Isaiah is. He's a big kid. He's probably close to 6'1", close to 220 pounds. That's a little more in that Harbaugh mold. But, Harbaugh name checked Austin Eckler. I hope that's the case. We all love Austin. I just think, in terms of money and how, and age and where, that's an interesting one. If they just feel like he wasn't being used right, if the line wasn't right, and that's what led to a bit of a precipitous drop for Austin, not to mention the fumbles that, just kind of found their way to him all season long. If you told me to pick one lane, all new backs, or Austin and Isaiah come back and then they find one other, I would pick all new backs. I think you think about some of, what those guys can get in the draft, especially if you're picking up extra twos and threes as you trade down the board. You can get yourself great value, in 4 years of MC fresh legs running that ball. And I think about like a Gus Edwards. There's not a lot of tread on those tires. Someone that knows that Roman scheme from doing it in Baltimore all those years. So I'd probably lean maybe two backs in the draft. Like a late one of those seventh rounders or something like that. One in the middle rounds, and maybe a free agent would probably be my guess.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that Eckler will have the opportunity to come back, but it's going to be at a
Yeah,
huge discount. Because here's the thing: when you think about Frank Gore, when Hardball kept that guy around for years, why? Because not just the ability and dependability, the leadership. Frank Gore was over 30, still running the
yeah.
ball downfield practice. Hardball likes hard workers, and that's one thing about
Oh,
Eckler, like you
bust
and
his
I have
ass.
always alluded to. Yeah, he busts his ass, and so Harbaugh's going to see that and say, okay, how do I do? And I know what I can do with this guy because now the emphasis is there. See, Eckler fell off a lot because, like you said, the offensive
Yeah,
line up and down. It was no commitment really to the run game. Okay, we're going to be physical. The mindset wasn't there. You got to have a mindset. This team has been mindset, okay, protect the passer. We're going to go throw the ball downfield. That's where we're putting our eggs and that's our basket. And I think now you're going to have a coach that's saying, no, we're going to be diverse and we're going
right.
to demand excellence in every phase of the game.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, like we said, there's two rooms that need to be really sort of redone. It's tight ends and running backs. And like I said, after
Sure.
listening to Joe, I think it's probably also, offensive line. I feel like with the depth of tackles, with the retirement of Corey Linsley, I think you're probably talking about a tackle and a center, maybe in the first. Those might be their first two picks, tackle and a center. That in that way you feel really good about Rashawn Slater. I think you got to get Zion back on track. He had ups and downs, had some really good ups, had some really low lows. You got to get that right. Gosh knows when you see him walking around, you recognize just the sheer strength and how massive he is, and it ought to be able to work. And then you can get yourself a center to replace Corey, and there's a couple good ones in this draft. I think that's
Sure.
probably where they're going to start. Now, we're so focused on one side of the ball, right? There's also a defensive side of the ball where all of your tackles are free agents. Your two defensive ends, outside of Thule, Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are combining to make over $70 million. Next year those contracts got to be reworked. Kenneth Murray didn't have his fifth-year option picked up. I think Eric Kendricks is probably going to be out because of the cap, considerations that they need to move on from. Do they have a corner on this team that you think fits the Harbaugh mold? Alohi Gilman is a free. I mean, we're talking about almost the entire defense and that could be the direction that they just have to go. Could be a corner. They're in a position. They have not drafted a corner high since Jason Verrett. Like, think about that. They have not
Right.
drafted a first round
Right.
corner since Jason Verrett. And how important are corners? You
Wow.
look out there. What's out there? Shavarius Ward, Trent McDuffie. Like, these dudes are important, man. Like, you have got to have corners on your squad.
Yeah, and those guys don't stay on the market long. Those are guys that you don't see them on the market. When you got a good corner, you don't let him leave the building. You know how that
Yeah.
is, and that's why when the Chargers drafted, this young man, you think that he was going to be a lockdown corner for years. Injuries killed him. He goes to San Francisco. They even brought him back again and got injured because they knew that Verrett was a good corner, just could not stay healthy. So when you have elite corner play, those guys don't leave the building.
Yeah. And look, here's the thing, too. Like, I don't know if the numbers are going to come out. I don't feel it's my place to be sharing, what I've heard or what I know about the numbers. Dean Spanos, he wrote out some big freaking checks. I mean, big checks for Joe. For Joe Hortiz, he wrote big checks to get that guy away from Baltimore. Big checks for Jesse Minter. Big checks for Ben Herbert. Big checks for Jim Harbaugh. For Roman. Like, this is an expensive staff that he is paying for. You better believe that there will be no expense spared. You do not spend that kind of money on a coaching staff and then just stop. So when Joe Ortiz in his presser said, about, building towards something or having to totally reconstruct the roster. I get it. He's got to say it, but I believe it. He's like, it's not what we're here to do. It's not why Dean Spanos is paying us, is to say, oh yeah, we're gonna look toward 2025. No, we're gonna figure out a way to win the Super Bowl in 2024. In the 2024 season. That's what we're gonna do. So I think that opens that door for there to be a conversation about bringing back Bosa, Mack, Keenan, Eckler, some of those pieces, and trying to figure out how to make this puzzle work. If they determine that, no, we got a real shot with him on the roster, and let's figure the money out here. So I think that's something to pay attention to. It did not get the sense that this is going to be a rip the Band-Aid off, completely reset, unless they feel like that's the best approach. We're too concerned about Khalil's age and too concerned about Joey's injuries. We're too concerned about Mike Williams' injury history to bring him back and push more money into the future and kick this can, down the road. Keenan Allen's coming back. They just too many people are talking about him to just cut him loose. That does not make any sense. That he would be on the outs. He's going to be coming back. So
I think they're going to be something like a team that, what you're saying, they're going to rip the band. I think they rip the Band-Aid off, but I think becomes like a Green Bay, because people aren't going to expect them to do much, because you're going to have only a couple players that the name recognition. But I think because of the buy-in and because of the coaches and because they're going to be pushed, I think they'll be that team, because you're going to see a lot, like you said, this is going to be this roster is going to be overhauled. But the way these coaches think and the way that Joe Hortiz at an office, they're not going to settle for mediocrity.
Yeah.
They're not going to settle for mediocre. They're not going to sit and say, oh, we're young or this and that and other. No, these coaches and this staff, they're going to put a demand. I don't care if it's a bunch of rookies. They're going to roll out a product, and that product's going to compete. Guaranteed that.
I'll tell you what's interesting, Lo, is we kind of wrap it up here. And look, Coach Harbaugh would punch me right in the throat if he heard me say it. But it's maybe the year to do it. It's a last place schedule. They get the Patriots, who are going to be looking for a quarterback. They get the Titans. Don't know what Will Levis is. They get the Cardinals, who, were a feisty bunch last year, but we know they got a lot of work to do on that roster as their three last place games. On top of that, you get the NFC South. We know what that looked like throughout. We thought maybe, that it was going to be 8 and 9 that won that division. So you get a Falcons team that is looking for a quarterback. The Panthers were the worst team in football last year. The Saints, who had a lot of issues throughout the course of the season and infighting. Wow. What are the Buccaneers going to do? And then look, they get the AFC North. That's not easy. We understand that, but looks like the Steelers are looking for a quarterback. And then talk about the division. Yes, you've got to knock off the Chiefs, and that is a bear to deal with. But what are the Broncos doing at quarterback? What are the Raiders doing at quarterback? Like, this may be the year, like you said, where you can rip off that Band-Aid. Maybe you're going with some inexperience, but because you have Justin Herbert, because you have Jim Harbaugh, you feel like, you know what? I kind of like the way this is the year to do it because of the way it lays out. We feel as though maybe, we can hang. We can look at, and it's so stupid to project the future because of injury, and you never know. Look at the Texans. They were expected to be one of the worst teams in football. They make the playoffs and win a playoff game. That the Packers, no Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. There, you talked about it. So you never know. But I wonder if that's part of the calculus.
Well, Coach Harbaugh's listening to the show. Everyone, all the billions of people that listen. We got billions of listeners. So I'm just gonna let you know, Harbaugh, Coach, I didn't say that. That was money. So you go ahead and punch him in the throat. You're gonna get punched in the throat. Right in the throat. That Adams.
Sorry, Coach.
I got you. I got your back. Hey, Money, I got your back, buddy. I ain't letting Harbaugh. He's got to come through me. But no, you make a very valid point. The way you laid that out, though, they do have a chance because of the competition they're playing too. So they just got to go out and play ball. I'm excited, man. Excited about the upcoming season. Excited about the draft. And man, you give me your final. I know we did it earlier. Give me who's going to be the MVP of this Super Bowl. If it's not Mahomes, give me your guy.
Not Mahomes. Oof. You know what? Whatever. I'll go with the hometown kid because I love Trent McDuffie. Played at Bosco. Let's get Trent McDuffie out there with a couple picks. on your guy Brock. That would be that would
There
be
we
nice.
go.
They'd be celebrating. He was a modern day kid and a Bosco kid. He played for the two titans of football in our nation 2 years each. So I'll give it to him. How about you?
Nah, you know what? I'm going to go with defensive guy. I just think that Nicky
There you go.
Bosa, didn't have a huge year this year, but I just think that, hey, look, this guy's going to do something special in this Super Bowl. I really believe that the Niners are going to pull this upset, this win. And all the books have, everyone says everything in your logic. You say, how do you bet against Mahomes? How can you bet against him and Kelsey? They are unbelievable. The best duel that we've ever seen besides Brock and Brady. And then you look at the Niners are favored by two, like -2. So the Niners like no way. Everyone's saying Kansas City, Kansas City. I just think that because everyone is on this and everyone believes that Kansas City, because what your eyes tell you that they
Yeah.
should be, I think it builds for the Niners. I think the Niners win this. And yes, let's give it to
Yeah.
you know who, the
Yep,
other
there you
brother.
go. It's interesting. The Chiefs have been underdogs in every playoff game. It's very strange. And the 49ers are the first team to make it all the way to the Super Bowl as a favorite in every single game they played. That is crazy. They
Wow.
have never been an underdog all season long. So they
Wow.
can't play the chip on the shoulder. Nobody believes in us. Well, Vegas made you a favorite in every single game. So literally every single game. It's never happened. So there you go. Or maybe it happened with the Patriots.
Thanks for
Yeah.
pulling on. Thanks for pulling on
Yeah,
my theory.
exactly.
Thank you.
Sorry. It is
Thank
playoff
you.
time, by the way. The usual suspects are heading to Vegas for the championship. Our partner BetOnline is your number one source for football odds, stats, trends, and lines with everything from point spreads to hundreds of bets on everything from the coin toss to the color of Gatorade. BetOnline is the number one source for your championship wagering. Head to BetOnline and join today to get in on all the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. Enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday, everybody. May it be a compelling, competitive game that comes down to the very end. To the victor go the spoils. I hope it's not the Chiefs again. But hey, let's just make it a competitive game, and we'll be back again next week with more Believe in Chargers.